All right, hey y'all. Wanted to chat with you a little bit today about some things that came up over the weekend, and then also I think it was like a Monday workout or something with a conversation with a very dear friend, and I would also consider a client. But so several things happened over the course of a couple days, and I feel like they all kind of tie into this similar theme. And this similar theme is about maybe you're doing way better than you think you are, and stop being so hard on yourself. And everything changes over time, and that's a really good thing, and it's beautiful to be on this journey that we're on. It's way better to be on this journey and engaged and experiencing these learning opportunities and difficulties and challenges than it is not to be in the realm that we were in before. So let me just start with the meetings that we had, and then I had some conversations. So we had 4 meetings on Sunday. We had 3 different CrossFit gym meetings, and they're all in this 8-week Real Food Masterclass progression, which is a super solid progression, and they're all at different phases. And so one of them I come in, and we're just chatting before the meeting starts, and I love that opportunity with everybody. I love it when people have never been in any of our stuff before, and just to see their minds blown with this information, because everyone comes into these things with so much neurosis and stress and all this stuff around eating. And what I love about us and the way that we do things is it is not that. It is the opposite of that. It is the antithesis of that. Our way of doing things is liberating, it's freeing, it's accepting, it's encompassing, it's simple, it's elegant, it's livable, it's doable in a modern lifestyle, and that's all the different things that we want to make this work over the long term. And of course we have to deal with, not only people's, habituations, the way that they think things should be done, but the mental and emotional piece is just, we're undoing years, if not decades, of all kinds of different physiological and emotional damage, and it's crazy, So I come into this one at a Straight Flush CrossFit. Shout out to my boy Trevor over there and his gang. Like, it's just been great. Like, absolutely love this group of people. They're starting to see such great changes, and I meet this one young lady that I haven't met in the first progression, so she watched her videos. And she was just asking some questions about low carb and keto, and I'm just really kind of like worried or stressed about like what I'm supposed to do as far as integrating this with that. And so we just had a really good discussion about it. I said, well, hey, do you mind if we talk about this out in front of everybody else, And so when everybody got around, we started to talk about it. And first of all, anytime I hear the term keto, like it just almost bugs me. And no offense to the people that this is working for, but this is the reality. Ketogenic is no joke. If you're doing strict ketogenic and you're measuring blood ketones and stuff like that, for most people it's no joke. And I was on the keto bandwagon for 2 years, and I felt like that it was like the thing. Me and my practitioner friends felt like it was the thing to teach people. And what we found is that just because it works for us, it doesn't work for everybody, And I did a lot of private practice work with it. We tried some group progression work with it, and half the people saw great results, and half of them, it completely backfired on them. And I know now why, because, we have to facilitate and build a terrain that supports something like that before we get into it. But our way of doing things, I think, is better because we're getting the benefits that we're looking for from something like that without being that restrictive and that neurotic about stuff. So anyway, she was just asking, about integrating this whole thing. And, my first question is always, well, how do you feel? Like, how are things shifting? And of course, she feels great. Everything's shifting in a great direction. Body composition feels good, and it has improved since starting our progression. And of course, our way of doing things is a broad, omnivorous way of doing things, and we embrace carbohydrates. We just want it from real food sources at the right time of day. And I said, I think it's much more beneficial to do things our way over the long term and have a little bit of starch and fruit and just time it right in the day and nurture space in between meals and all the different things that we learned in that meeting that day. And I told her too, I was like, look, it sounds to me like, I asked her what she's eating, and I said, it sounds to me like you're doing really damn good. It sounds to me like maybe you're being hard on yourself. Maybe, just maybe, you're doing pretty damn good and there's nothing to stress out about. And her guy friend that was there with her, I don't know if it was her husband or boyfriend or just a really supportive friend of the gym, and he was like looking at her and he's like, yeah, you're doing really good, and you're doing amazing, and maybe sometimes we need to give ourselves a break, because really, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Like, with us, with what we're doing? we're eating real food. We're teaching people how to eat real food. We're teaching people how to nurture the body's ability to tap into fat stores and to use that for energy. And that does not mean that you have to be low carb or ketogenic, because you can burn free fatty acids from your adipose tissue without being ketogenic. And by the way, most of us are probably ketogenic anyway if we measure our ketones in the afternoon or in some space, but we get there naturally. Okay, we eat a broad spectrum of food with a broad spectrum of nutrients, and we nurture space in between meals, and we train on an empty stomach, and we do a lot of other things that we recommend for nudging the body in that direction. And at the same time, we have our carbohydrates. We just make sure that we moderate them, and it's just a beautiful way of doing things. And anyway, so my point there was, and everybody there is like, maybe you're doing pretty damn good, because no matter where you're at in this thing, you're trying to figure it out. Okay, you are on path, and it is way better to be on path than to be unaware that you're unaware and to be out there in the realm that everyone else is in. Okay, so maybe you're not perfect with everything all the time. Maybe your strategies and all that stuff aren't perfect now, but guess what? Whatever's working now or not working now is probably going to change at some point in the future. And so we have to approach this with this mindset of, it's like curiosity, fascination, and enjoying the process. And I know that's easier said than done, but really, step back, what are we doing? We're learning how to eat real food. We're teaching the body how to tap into fat stores for fuel. And trust me, like, we've been doing this for years. We work with a lot of people, and I want the best. We want the best for all of you. Like, we would not recommend doing anything that doesn't work. So anyway, that was a really good conversation. Then this other girl there, she's just really cute and adorable, and just like her personality's great. And oh my God, I think I said she was Cuban, and she's Colombian. Colombian, that's what it is. And so first week, lost 6 pounds. Got on the scale the other day, was up 1.5 pounds. And just like now questioning everything, okay? And we see this happen all the time. And again, I had to have the same conversation. And this was in front of everybody. I said, listen, think about what we're doing here. First of all, there's a large biological variation that happens from day to day. And who knows what the heck that's attributed to. It could be the food that you ate the day before. It could be your bowel movement. It could be your hydration levels. It could be the heat outside, the temperature. I mean, there's so many different things that factor into that. And I don't think the scale is a great thing to get on all the time if this is something that contributes to your personal neurosis. Now, I'll tell you, like me and some of the guys here, me, Colby, John, Nixon, the people that come to mind right now, like, yeah, we weigh ourselves, some days, most days, some days we forget to do it for a couple weeks or whatever, because it's not that important to us. But when we get on it, first of all, the numbers change so much. Like, last week I was maybe 206, 208, 2 days later I'm 202, today I'm 198, in a few days I'll probably be 203, like, who knows, the focus has to be, how do I feel? And is my performance progressing, and my symptoms and things that I want to track progress with progressing? And if not, then that's a good question to ask, but the scale should not be my dictating way of measuring things. And so when we look at it, we don't ever like have this mindset, oh my God, I'm up 3 pounds, now what do I do? It's really like, well, that's interesting, and over time we start to see some kind of trends. And I mentioned this in the meeting, when I first got here and started trying to do my practice back in 2012, and this was after I went from 275 pounds and diabetic to, being a lot healthier. I was like 225 pounds. This is back 2012, 2013. 225 pounds, healthier, but definitely didn't look, I feel like, as healthy as I look right now, or feel as good as I feel right now. But anyway, if I say 25, because right now I'm about 25 pounds since 2012, what is that, like 6 years? 25 pounds divided by 6, that's about 4 pounds a year. I mean, that sounds so minimal, but it's cumulative over time, and I'm experiencing all these different health benefits and shifts and everything else. And I'm not saying that that's how slow it's going to be for you, but what I'm saying is that we need to be in this for the long haul, and we need to be in this not for the weight only. We care about body composition, and we can look at that as something that's interesting, but if it's something that contributes to our neurosis, especially while we're just trying to implement the basics, then I think it's probably not a good idea. If you get it, if you get everything that we're talking about, you've been with us for 6 months, a year, 3 years, and everything's going good, and the scale does not derail you like that, then the weight can be something interesting to look at and measure progress with. But if you're just trying to implement real food and get the basics down, and you're down 6 pounds, and you're up 2 pounds, and then you're down 3 pounds, and forget the scale. Don't even worry about the scale. Go by how you look, feel, and perform. And then when you start to notice things that seem kind of off, you can start to make some changes and adjustments. And again, I came back to this thing with this girl, like, think about what we're doing here. Think about how great you feel. Think about the amazing food that you're eating, and you're losing weight, and you're not eating every 2 or 3 hours, and your performance is going up, so let's just take everything with a grain of salt and be easy on ourselves, okay? And then the final thing that happened was, this is such a beautiful conversation with this beautiful person, and I've worked with her for a little bit, and she's lost a lot of weight, and she feels amazing and looks amazing. I mean, she just looks great. She's like half the person that she was when I first met her, and but she's also dealing with some things, symptom-wise, and she's starting to learn that there's a huge emotional, mental, tie to a lot of things that we're dealing with the food piece. And so she's got a little bit of issues going on with something that seemed kind of autoimmune-ish, and she had some joint pain and some other stuff going on. I said, okay, let's try taking out some things that you're consuming on a regular basis, and so recommended doing like some nightshades and dairy, and immediately when she took those things out, like she felt better and noticed some great improvements. But then she reintroduced those foods and noticed a flare up, and then we came back and had this discussion, and she's like, man, I'm realizing this food has been my problem my entire life. And we're not just talking about symptoms, we're talking about the mental and emotional piece of it. And I think there's a fear sometimes when we get into these situations. Let's say that we're going through this real food progression and we're learning about ourselves and we're testing and pulling out and bringing back in, which is what we do in our progression. We're trying low carb, we're trying something ketogenic, we're trying something vegan and all this stuff. And we see what works for us, and we find out, man, I have to be a little bit more diligent, and I have to be a little bit more restrictive. And I think for some of us that's kind of scary. And I feel you, like I'm there with you, okay? I went through my phase of all that kind of stuff, and what I want to say is it's an adaptation process, and there has to be a conversation that you have with yourself. It's a mindset, all right? I think that we feel like we're being restrictive because we have access to so much stuff in this modern world, but I think if we can try to flip that and be grateful that we have this information and this ability to go from crap food to understanding what real food is, and then within the real food realm, even if it's slightly more restrictive, to have the ability, the intelligence, the capacity to figure out what works for me and what doesn't. And that doesn't mean that you're perfect with it, but just having that ability to be aware and consciously participate in what's happening, I think is a huge win, Yes, we have a lot of things that we can have access to, and yes, it kind of sucks when you have to pull away from that for a little bit, but what I was telling her is that things always change. What I've noticed in my private practice when I work with individuals is that over time, the more diligent they are with 100% real food, if they have to restrict for a little bit, the digestive system heals, the whole body heals, and now they can start to bring things in that they couldn't bring in before. I've got autoimmune clients that we went strict autoimmune, no dairy, no nuts, no seeds, no legumes, no nightshades, no FODMAPs, and then they feel amazing, symptoms clear up, and I say, all right, let's start to bring some stuff back in. All of a sudden they can do some hard cheeses, all of a sudden they can do some heavy cream, all of a sudden they can do some specific nuts and hard shell butters and stuff like that. So my point with her and my point with this is that, number one, let's be grateful that we have the capacity to learn this information and to at least feel better and not be in the crap food realm. And let's be thankful that we have the capacity to experiment and see what's working for us and what's not working, and not look at it as restrictive, but look at it as a gift of beautiful information that we have access to. And we're not going to be perfect with it all the time. We can still make the decision to do it or not do it, and that's perfectly fine. But I think it's just great to have that awareness and that wisdom and understand that as time goes on, this is not permanent, okay? I liken it to like when I have an injury in the gym and I can't do something because I have a torn bicep or something like that. Like, okay, well, I can't do certain movements, but it's making me focus on other areas, and it's making me focus on doing more of my mobility and therapeutic stuff in there. And we could look at the same, and then before I know it, I can do movements that I couldn't do before, and I'm back at it stronger than I was before. I had an injury recently that, it's discouraging, and then I got to flip it and think about, okay, well, what's really happening here? And I envisioned myself like this is a breaking down so I can build back stronger. And the same things happen with the body. We need to see it like that. Okay, things are not always going to stay this way. I may need to be really diligent, really restrictive in the beginning or for a certain phase, but over time I can start to experiment with bringing stuff back in, okay? And said with nothing but love and compassion and kindness, and we're all in this together, and I've been there. And I promise you, and I think one of the great things that came away from that conversation with her was that, hey, there's a team of support here for you. There's me, there's all our community, and we all care, and it's great to be. Oh, and another thing that we noticed is, she's trying to do this diet in the context of being around a work situation where everyone else thinks she's crazy. for eating the way that she's eating, although she's lost so much weight and she feels so much better. And I don't know how they feel, but I'm just guessing they probably don't feel that great. And yet they question everything that she's doing, and it's kind of hard being in that realm. And what I had to say to her was, look, I'm a proud rebel. We need to be proud rebels. We need to be proud of the way that we're doing things. Yes, what we do is very different from what everyone else is doing, because guess what? What everyone else is doing out there is wrong. What everyone else is doing out there is not serving them. It's not working. I get people that come to me that are, that just, I can see it in their heart and their eyes. They feel miserable, they're inflamed, but they're so married to, yeah, but I thought this was right, and someone told me that I need to do this, and of course, like, if what we say works, and we have this proven track record, what we're going to say is going to be very different from what is out there, because what's out there is not working for most people. All right? So take pride in that. Like, I'm proud to be different. I'm proud to break out my freaking meat and fat and butter and yolks and liver and organs. And of course, I'm proud to break out my plant matter and everything too, but, and my dairy stuff, whatever. But I really embrace that, and I'm proud of it. So anyway, so I hope that's useful. Big takeaways are, maybe you're doing pretty damn good. I bet you're doing pretty damn good, because you're doing the best with what you have. You're doing the best you can with what you have where you are right now, okay? And be easy on yourself. And that doesn't mean don't keep striving for better and don't keep pushing it and all that kind of stuff, but you know what I'm saying? Maybe you're doing pretty damn good. You need to be easy on yourself, because at least you're on path and you're in this realm and you're trying to do things, right? And then the second thing is, nothing is ever going to stay the same, so let's just look at this with curiosity, fascination, and conscious participation, and seeing what works, and be thankful that we can have this information and be able to do this work versus not doing this work, okay? And it's okay to be a rebel. It's okay to be different, all right? We love you guys so much. Thank you so much for listening, watching, whatever.